At the beginning of the movie, a group of people are traveling across a vast desert in an airplane. Suddenly, a massive sandstorm starts chasing them. To escape the storm, the pilot increases the speed of the aircraft. However, a fire suddenly breaks out on the plane, causing it to lose control. The airplane crashes into a huge mountain cave in the middle of the desert and explodes instantly. After the crash, they discover an ancient chamber filled with treasures that have been hidden for thousands of years. As soon as one of them touches a mysterious golden book, countless mummy skeletons begin emerging from beneath the ground. The mummies launch a fierce attack, leading to an intense battle. But things get even worse when thousands of insects start crawling out from the mummies' bodies. Terrified by the horrifying sight, the group begins running for their lives. Now the question is, will they be able to escape this deadly place and survive? Or will the ancient curse claim them all? At the beginning of the story, about 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, Pharaoh had a wife named Anjuna. She was so beautiful that even looking at her was punishable by death. Anjuna already had a secret relationship with Mahal. One day, Pharaoh left for the city on an important matter of the kingdom. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Mahal, the priest, became involved in an illicit relationship with Anjuna. Suddenly, Pharaoh returned to the palace for some work and noticed on Anjuna's hand a mark showing that someone had touched her. Pharaoh asked Anjuna, "Who has touched your body?" At that moment, Mahal the priest grabbed a knife from behind, and Anjuna stabbed Pharaoh from behind. She continued stabbing him again and again. Hearing Pharaoh's screams, all the soldiers rushed toward the palace. Seeing this, Mahal's soldiers became frightened and ran away. Anjuna told Mahal, "You should escape from here. If I die, they will bring me back to life again." But Mahal said, "I will not leave you alone and go anywhere." At that moment, Mahal's soldiers dragged him away and hid him. After that, Pharaoh's soldiers arrived and saw Pharaoh's body lying on the ground. Suddenly, Anjuna said, "I never want to live as Pharaoh's slave." Saying this, she stabbed herself in the stomach. Mahal was secretly watching all of this from hiding. Meanwhile, as night fell, the temple priest Imhotep escaped from the palace, taking Anjuna's dead body with him, hoping to bring her back to life. He journeyed to a place called Hamunaptra, located in the heart of the desert. It was a place said to contain countless treasures and mysterious dark powers. There, Imhotep found a book of black magic and began reciting the spells written within it. Suddenly, a dark spirit slowly emerged from the water and moved toward Anjuna's lifeless body. But before the resurrection ritual could be completed, Pharaoh's soldiers stormed the site and destroyed everything. The ritual was left unfinished, and the frightened spirit retreated back beneath the water. Afterward, all the priests were captured and given a terrible punishment. However, Imhotep's punishment was even more horrifying. First, he was mummified alive. Then, countless living insects were released onto his body, slowly feeding on his flesh. Though he writhed in unbearable agony, death never came to him. After that, a sacred lock was placed on the coffin, and its lid was sealed shut. Everyone believed this was the end of Imhotep, but in reality, it was only the beginning of his true story. Finally, the soldiers buried him alive, trapped inside the sealed coffin. Day after day, night after night, and year after year passed until the year 1923 arrived. Many people wanted to claim the treasures of Hamunaptra for themselves, using the key to its gates. Thousands and even millions of soldiers and treasure seekers from different countries became involved in conflicts, battles, and fierce competition over the legendary city. Meanwhile, Evelyn and her brother Jonathan somehow came into possession of the key that could open the Book of the Dead. Hidden inside the key was a mysterious map that revealed the direct route to Hamunaptra. As soon as they discovered this, the two of them went straight to the head of the Museum of Antiquities and showed him the map. The head of the museum carefully examined the map, trying to figure out the route to Hamunaptra. But suddenly, the map caught fire from a nearby candle, and nearly 60% of it was burned to ashes. Despite this setback, Evelyn and her brother Jonathan set out on their journey using what remained of the map. Along with many others, they traveled across the desert on camels. Days turned into nights, and after a long journey, they finally arrived at the legendary city of Hamunaptra. Once inside, Evelyn created a source of light using an ancient vessel. While she and her companions were discussing their plans, one greedy man began stuffing several strange objects into his bag, believing they were valuable treasures. However, one of the objects slipped from his hands and fell to the ground. Suddenly, a beetle-like insect crawled out of it and quickly burrowed into his boot. The man immediately began screaming in terror. The creature started moving rapidly through his body beneath the skin. In panic, he tore off his clothes and continued screaming in agony. Moments later, the insect ripped its way out through his body, causing devastating internal damage. Unable to survive the attack, the man collapsed and died. Meanwhile, Evelyn, Jonathan, O'Connell, and the others finally discovered a coffin that had remained sealed for thousands of years. They opened it, and to their horror, the living mummy of the temple priest emerged from inside. The sight was so terrifying that everyone began screaming in fear. At the same time, the rival team found the ancient Book of the Dead that had once belonged to the temple priest. Later that night, while everyone was asleep, Evelyn secretly took the black magic book and brought it to O'Connell. Curious and unaware aware of the danger. She began reading the ancient spells aloud in an attempt to awaken the mummy. Suddenly, the mummy came back to life in a violent and terrifying form. Hearing the screams, everyone panicked and started running. But when they looked behind them, they saw thousands of horrifying scarab beetles bursting out from beneath the ground. Terrified, they ran for their lives. After some time, they managed to escape the beetles, but Evelyn accidentally fell into a trap set by the terrifying mummy priest. Just as the mummy was about to attack her, O'Connell arrived. In fear, he fired his gun directly at the creature, blasting parts of its body apart. Then he grabbed Evelyn and they ran away. However, the mummy was still alive and completely unharmed. After escaping, Evelyn and her team returned to the city of Fort Bryden near Cairo, hoping to find a way to stop the ancient evil that had awakened. One day, Evelyn was returning home from work when O'Connell called out to her from behind. As the two began talking, they suddenly noticed flashes of lightning lighting up the sky. Moments later, destruction spread around them, leaving parts of the area in ruins. Just then, the mummy of the temple priest appeared. O'Connell immediately started firing at it, but the mummy rushed forward and threw him aside with incredible force. It then approached Evelyn and kissed her. Suddenly, a cat appeared nearby. The moment the mummy heard the cat's cry, it became frightened and fled. In reality, the ancient priest feared cats because they were considered sacred, protectors against evil spirits. Later one night, Evelyn was sleeping in her room when the mummy returned, transforming into a cloud of sand-like particles. It slipped through a small crack in the door and entered her room. The mummy moved toward the sleeping Evelyn and leaned in to kiss her. At that very moment, she woke up in shock. Just then, O'Connell arrived carrying a cat. As soon as the cat let out a loud cry, the spirit of the temple priest panicked and fled from the room once again. But the temple priest used his dark magic to bring the people of the city under his control. As a result, O'Connell, Evelyn, and the rest of their team found themselves trapped. Soon, the temple priest arrived and made an offer. He said that if Evelyn came with him willingly, he would spare the lives of everyone else. O'Connell refused to accept the deal and instead tried to shoot the priest. However, Evelyn agreed to go with him in order to save her friends. Even so, she clearly did not want to go, as she felt she was being forced against her will. The priest then took Evelyn away and ordered the controlled townspeople to kill the remaining members of the group. Immediately, crowds of people began moving toward them from every direction. Realizing they were outnumbered, O'Connell quickly opened an underground hatch and escaped below the surface. Meanwhile, the head of the museum bravely fought against the attacking crowd and managed to take down several of them, but there were simply too many enemies. Eventually, the mob overwhelmed him and killed him, while O'Connell and the others continued their desperate fight for survival. O'Connell and the rest of the group headed straight to the airbase. There, O'Connell met his friend, the fighter pilot Bintens. He explained everything that had happened, and without wasting any time, Bintens prepared his plane and set off toward Hamunaptra. The plane was flying smoothly through the sky. Since there was very little space inside, Jonathan was strapped to one side of the aircraft, while the team leader was secured on the other side. Meanwhile, the priest Imhotep spotted them approaching by air. Realizing their plan, he unleashed a massive supernatural sandstorm. The storm rose hundreds of feet into the air, creating a terrifying wall of sand. Seeing this, O'Connell shouted an alarm while Bintens pushed the plane to its maximum speed. O'Connell opened fire with a machine gun, trying to fight back against the approaching danger. But suddenly, the enormous sandstorm swallowed the entire plane. Terrified, Evelyn tried to calm Imhotep and stop the storm. For a moment, it seemed to work, and when the plane emerged from the storm, Evelyn felt relieved. However, the relief lasted only a few seconds. The aircraft suddenly caught fire, lost control, and crashed in the distance, exploding in a massive blast. Although they narrowly escaped with their lives, O'Connell checked on his friend and realized that the fighter pilot, Bintens, had died. Just then, the plane suddenly began sinking into a massive pit in the desert. Terrified, they ran to a safe distance and watched helplessly as the aircraft, along with Bintens's body, disappeared into the hole. There was nothing they could do except stand there and watch. Afterward, they continued their journey toward Hamunaptra. Meanwhile, Imhotep had already taken Evelyn deep inside the cave. He knew that O'Connell and his team would definitely follow them, so he scattered the ashes from a sacred urn onto the wall and began chanting an ancient spell. As a result, the mummies hidden within the walls suddenly awakened and, under Imhotep's command, started hunting O'Connell's team. At that very moment, O'Connell and the others entered the cave. As soon as they stepped inside, the mummies launched their attack. During the chaos, they discovered a giant statue beneath, which was a chest containing the golden book. To stop the mummies chasing them, O'Connell set off an explosion. Many of the mummies were blown into pieces, and one of the passageways was blocked. But just when they thought they had gained some time, more mummies began emerging one after another. Their leader then stayed behind and fought the mummies mummies alone to hold them back. Taking advantage of the opportunity, O'Connell and Jonathan retrieved the golden book from the chest. However, the key to the book was still in Imhotep's possession. Meanwhile, after regaining consciousness, Evelyn saw that Anxunamun's body was lying right beside her. At that very moment, Imhotep began the ancient ritual to bring Anxunamun fully back to life. Within moments, the same dark spirit emerged from the black waters and entered Anxunamun's body. Now, to complete the resurrection, Evelyn had to be sacrificed. But just as Imhotep raised a knife to strike, Jonathan arrived carrying the golden book. The sight of it alarmed Imhotep, and he immediately rushed forward to seize the book. Using this opportunity, O'Connell cut Evelyn's chains with his sword and set her free. Seeing this, the mummies charged at them from all directions like bloodthirsty beasts, but O'Connell stood his ground and fought them back with his sword. As they tried to run away, they suddenly saw a group of mummies approaching. Within moments, the creatures attacked them. At the same time, Evelyn fell into Anxunamun's trap, having been brought back to life for a second time. Anxunamun had become violent and ruthless. Meanwhile, O'Connell was fighting the mummies when a powerful blow sent him crashing to the ground. Furious, he set one of the mummies on fire and kicked it into a pool of poisonous liquid. Suddenly, Evelyn screamed for help, causing Anxunamun to stop what she was doing and turn her attention elsewhere. At the same time, Jonathan finally found the magical book and desperately searched through its pages for a spell that could control the mummies. While battling the creatures, O'Connell was struck again and thrown down a staircase. The mummies surrounded him and were just about to stab him to death when Jonathan began reading the ancient spell aloud. Instantly, the mummies fell under his control. Instead of attacking O'Connell, they started obeying Jonathan's commands. Jonathan immediately ordered them to kill Anxunamun. Seeing this, Imhotep became furious and rushed toward Jonathan. Terrified, Jonathan dropped the book and ran away, but the command had already been given. The mummies turned on Anxunamun and stabbed her again and again until she collapsed and died. Jonathan was being strangled by Imhotep when O'Connell suddenly rushed in from behind and cut off one of Imhotep's arms with a knife. Enraged, Imhotep grabbed O'Connell and threw him away with great force. Meanwhile, Evelyn and Jonathan managed to insert the key into the black magic book and opened it completely. They began chanting the ancient spell from the book, trying to destroy Imhotep's powers. O'Connell continued fighting as he was repeatedly attacked and thrown around. Imhotep lifted him up, almost swallowing him whole, when suddenly spirits rushed down the stairs and began pulling away Imhotep's dark powers. In an instant, Imhotep was left with only his normal human-like body, stripped of all supernatural strength. Seizing the opportunity, O'Connell grabbed a knife and stabbed Imhotep in the stomach. Imhotep fell into the pool of cursed black water, where the toxic magical liquid slowly consumed him, draining his life away until he was reduced to a lifeless skeleton. After that, the ground suddenly began to shake violently as everything started collapsing around them. O'Connell and the others panicked and ran for their lives while debris fell all around them. They escaped through the inner chambers of the treasure-filled temple, but Jonathan suddenly stopped, mesmerized by the piles of gold. Evelyn and O'Connell quickly grabbed him and pulled him forward before he could get lost in greed. Meanwhile, the greedy archaeologist tried to chase them, but the tunnels were collapsing rapidly. The exit paths were being sealed one by one. For a moment, he found another route and ran toward it, but the entire structure was falling apart. He then saw the terrifying swarm of scarab beetles coming toward him from behind. He tried to defend himself with a torch, but slowly lost control as the darkness closed in around him. Eventually, he was completely surrounded, and his torch went out, leaving him trapped in total darkness. On the other side, Evelyn, O'Connell, and Jonathan barely managed to escape the collapsing ruins. Hamunaptra was completely destroyed and reduced to ruins. Finally, the three of them rode away on camels, carrying bags filled with gold, heading back toward the city. And with that, the Mummy Part 1 came to an end. If you want the explanation of Part 2, let me know.